Welcome to the Health Revolution, the show that leads you to a life of vibrant well-being. In a world full of noisy health trends, we bring you clarity through a sea of fads. We reveal the science behind the strategies that truly work. We explore physical strength, emotional resilience, and mental mastery, the keys to an enriched life. See inspiring interviews with the champions who've conquered life's health challenges. Are you ready to unlock your potential to live with vitality and purpose? Then join the Health Revolution. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison, health and fitness expert, speaker, and a mom who understands. Let's embark on this transformative quest together. If you want to change the game, it all starts now. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Health Revolution. And we're excited that you're joining us today. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison. No matter which way you're tuning into us, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. We want to stay connected to you. Also, at the bottom of your screen, there is a tab for show episode notes. Be mindful of that. There's some important reference information about today's episode. And we want to welcome all new viewers and returning viewers to our show. We're delighted that you're here with us today. Our show is all about elevating the physical strength of the human body, emotional resilience, and the mental mastery. We love to dive into this. Today, we get to dive into forging that resilience, that forging your comeback story, being able to come back, and how you rewrite your story. How do you take it to new heights? And our guest today is someone who's a shining example of that in so many different ways. I'm excited for you to meet him. First, take a look at this. Meet Dwayne Morton. Once a rising basketball player, Dwayne's world shifted when he found himself an innocent bystander caught in a devastating crossfire. As if that weren't enough, he was later diagnosed with blood cancer, a moment that would test anyone's faith, spirit, and will to keep going. But Dwayne didn't just survive, he evolved. Fueled by spiritual growth and inner strength, he rebuilt his life with intention, purpose, and a mission to inspire others. Today, we will learn how he turned tragedy into transformation, the role faith played in his healing, and how true power comes from within when you're called to bounce back. Dwayne Morton, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Adriana, for inviting me on and being able to share my story on your platform. And so one thing I always like to do, I like to share just the amount of gratitude. So I want to say thank you to the listeners of the show and just allowing me to come on and share my story.
You have quite the incredible story. You've worn several hats, professional athlete, and then you've gone some twists and turns through different chapters of your life to where you are today. Take us back to what that was like. Not everyone can be a professional athlete. Take us back to that time, that mindset, and that time in your life where before things took a turn.
Yeah, so for me, I was extremely fortunate. I took a different path than most people did to go overseas. Professional athlete would be something that kind of didn't happen. And when I say that is like I played international on a mission trip, and then as I was playing, I ended up getting an agent. And when I flew back home, I was able to find a contract. I was signed a contract, and unfortunately, I hurt my knee. So, but how I was able to get to that level was where I was able to start in the mindset part. I actually taught myself visualization. And so one day after doing drills, I was icing my knee, and somehow I decided that I was going to start visualizing the drill that I was doing outside. And what I did not realize and I didn't understand was that gave me experience and confidence. And so that's one of the reasons that I caught up to people. But I actually quit playing basketball my junior and senior year. So there really was no path. I wasn't going to college and those type of things. So my path is extremely different than most other athletes' journey.
When you were playing basketball, did you have dreams of getting into the NBA? And that was something, so there was that dream tucked along the way that you were trying to pursue.
So for me, it wasn't just playing in the NBA. It was just I wanted to play past high school. Because to me, at that time, when I was a little boy at 4 years old, when I was shooting baskets by myself, that was the dream. My dream was just to play in college. And then, as we got older, then we realized, oh, there's another level past college. And so I think that was really important. And so, of course, I set my sights on it. But at the same time, that path is extremely, extremely thin. And I was never a star player in my location, but what I was I was a good player. And then I would fall back, and then I'd be a bench player. And then I would have to fight back again to just make the team. And so that was the thing, is I was able to really forge my resilience on just basketball and sports, because I wasn't that star athlete. I was just good enough, or really good at certain times.
So when you hurt your knee, and oftentimes, athletes of any age will incur injuries. Was this a career-ending injury? Was this something that you thought, okay, I can't pursue basketball anymore, or was it just something that had happened to you where you also gave thought to what you need to do next?
So it's a great question. So what happened was, the lady who did my knee surgery was like, I can get you maybe 2-3 years. She's like, but then you'll have to have a total knee replacement in your mid-30s. She's like, so I just want you to be mindful of that. And I was like, I'm like, I feel like I've passed the point, and I was really close to my ceiling. And so I just decided, hey, I think that was kind of, hey, I want to try to figure out what life has for Dwayne Morton, and not just be an athlete the whole time.
And now would you consider that to be a tough decision? Like, wow, this is, whatever I choose now is going to have implications on the path I'm going to be on later on in life.
Yeah. So the one thing that I will say is I wanted to just like, hey, I want to pay off my parents' house or something like that. Like, that was the dream. Hey, do stuff for one of my family members. And then but then when I realized, like, I didn't want to have my knee, I didn't want to have my leg amputated, because that's what they do. And I was like, that was the thing where it's like, I don't think this is worth it. It just doesn't make sense at this point.
And so then choosing what you did and just making the decision that you had, going forward, what was the next course of action for you? Like, what was the turning point for you in your life where things just took an unexpected turn?
Yeah, so for me is I wanted to be a sports psychologist. That was the other part. So I was like, okay, like, I've done this athletic thing. And then, whenever I ended up taking a few years and trying to figure out what life had for me. And then at 29, I was diagnosed with a rare blood cancer. And so when at that point, I was like, oh, maybe I do not have the type of time that I feel like I have to go ahead. The other thing was, my mindset was like, okay, I accomplished my dream early. Maybe that's the reason that I got my dream, and I surpassed even my dream, if that makes sense. It's because my life was going to end early. And so whenever I was diagnosed with that rare blood cancer, I was only originally given 5 years. And then later on, it got moved to 15. But I was just like, okay, I don't know what this life has in store to me, but I have to figure something out, and I have to move quick.
How was it detected?
Yeah, so great question. The one thing is like, the day before, I ran 2 miles and I went and played basketball for 3 hours. The next day, I couldn't get up the 3 flights of stairs at my work. So I knew something was wrong. So I went to the doctor immediately and was like, okay, like, I'm in pretty good shape. I know what my body's able to handle. I do not feel good. What's going on? And then next thing I know, it was the next week I've got to go to an oncologist appointment.
And when they gave you the news and obviously they said the word cancer, what was going through your mind, and what helped you decide how you were going to confront this new chapter in your life?
Yeah, so when he said the news, I was like, okay, I don't understand. A lot of really good things were happening to me, and I was like, okay, I don't understand all this, but what I realized is that there was a point when I was overseas. I met this boy he was 5 years old. He had not eaten in 3 days. And so through that, I had this foundation of gratitude, which I understood that some people's nightmares are other people's dreams. And so that was what I held on to. I was like, hey, I know that other people have it worse. And that's the way that I like trucked on through it, is just like, okay, how do I figure a way to put the utmost effort into this and know that I gave all that I have? So I tried different diets. I tried different things. I stopped drinking and I stopped doing certain things that like were just like, lifestyle changes. And when I realized that, hey, this stuff isn't working, that was when it was like, oh, maybe this is a lot more serious than what I feel like I can make just a few lifestyle changes and, it'll be better.
So you took a holistic approach to addressing the cancer. Was there the doctor who had the oncologist who led you through this and the type of treatments? Can you talk a little bit about what your journey was in battling this, like what the treatment looked like and just where your mindset was at the time?
Yeah. So I was extremely, extremely fortunate with the treatments because I, with my story, the reason that I did not take any like chemotherapy, I didn't have to take any pharmaceutical stuff. So lucky for me is the way that they were handling my blood treatments was just bloodletting or phlebotomies for the people that don't know home. So it's just they drain blood off of me, but they had to do it so often that it started to get where it would just make me even more tired on top of what I was already. So just to kind of give people an idea, I felt like I had like severe fatigue syndrome, or for the people at home, if you've had the flu, it was like me having the flu every single day.
How long did it take for you to heal?
Heal for it, the turnaround was usually about a day, day and a half for me to actually feel like, okay, just to get to that point of like having the quarter of a tank full. Like that's what I started a day with, was a quarter of a tank. So there was a lot of time that I had to miss from work. Sometimes it would be a day, sometimes it would be 2 days, just because my body wasn't able to recuperate as fast.
And so then the whole journey as you were battling this, how long was it before you felt confident that it was more or less behind you, that you didn't have to worry about it?
Oh, so, you know, when I got misdiagnosed, when I found out that when the doctor said I was misdiagnosed in 2024, like I honestly asked him, "Are you sure?" Because I've had this for all this time, and so I was content. I just knew that it was going to end my life at some point. Like I was going to be a point where I was going to either have a stroke or a heart attack, and so that was the thing. Was it was like, hey, this is a silent killer. At some point, this is going to get you, and you're going to least expect it. And so as far as like getting over it, I would say when he told me that, I still was unsure of the whole process. Because I was like, okay, hold on a second. I've been through all these doctors and they keep telling me the same. And so at my seventh doctor is the one that like actually put two and two together. And he's like, okay, I don't feel like this dude has it. I feel like he either has COPD or sleep apnea. And so I ended up having severe sleep apnea.
Then it was misdiagnosis of the blood cancer, and that they were able to pinpoint COPD as the culprit of what you've been battling.
No, so it was either sleep apnea or COPD.
Or
And
that it was. Okay, so they were able to do a process of elimination. Where are you with that today?
yeah, so I started getting on the CPAP treatments. I believe it was April 28th. And like 2 days after that, I felt like a whole brand new man. Like I had energy. I was sleeping. It was the night and day difference was insane.
Do you remember what it was like, the type of your level of grappling with whether or not this was cancer, and then what was it like for you to sit with this information and then have to sort through, and that level of uncertainty that you were going through?
The thing is the uncertainty part was waiting until I got the decision. And it was like I got this gift at Christmas that I didn't know when I could open it, right? So until I was able to get that sleep apnea test and get that sleep center part, it was just like I had this gift that was underneath the Christmas tree, but I couldn't open it. And so I felt like that was like that. But I was like, there's a chance. There's a chance. And so usually when I was going through, when I was diagnosed, I would every night I would hit my head on the pillow, and I would be like, man, if I could just be healthy, if I was just healthy, like look what I would be able to do. I've met all these wonderful people, all these relationships, like I could do these business deals. And then on March 8th, 2024, I got my wish.
And so this is obviously a new turning of events, but this is not the only thing that you've gone through. So obviously there was a one day in which your life had changed, and it really literally in an instant. Can you share about that?
Yeah, so it was definitely in an instant. I went to take my niece to get some ice cream, and I had just had a scare with type 2 diabetes, and I beat it, and I was actually reversing it at that point. I lost some weight, and I was like, I was feeling really good. So my niece had been wanting me to take her to get some ice cream. So we hopped in the vehicle, this is actually kind of very ironic, but this just lets you know how intuitive I am. I drive a black SUV, and we were going to take the black SUV, and instead I decided, hey, the tires on the vehicle had actually been going down, and so I decided, hey, I'm going to take some time instead of just getting stuck in town and possibly have a flat tire. I'm just going to take the truck. So lucky for us, we were in the truck. What happened that day, that tragic day, was a criminal he was detained. He had a hidden gun in his waistband. He took it out. He murdered a police officer, and there was a shootout between them two, him and another officer, and I just so happened to be driving by. A stray bullet hit the truck that I was driving. If it would have been an eighth of an inch to the left, it kills me. If it's an eighth of an inch to the right, it hits my little niece's 3 at the time in the back seat. And so I was processing that. I also so it gave me PTSD and survivor's guilt. And so I was dealing with these two things. But what it did, Adriana, it made me think, I must have a purpose to be here. I don't know what that purpose is, but for some reason that bullet did not get me. And so I think that was the part of that where it just of that will where it just started getting to where I was manifesting being healthy.
At that moment where you were in the middle of all of that, and how did, in the aftermath afterwards, how did you process it? How in you dealing with it? How were you able to put one foot in front of the other? Because and you're right, it's pretty shocking. No one expects to have a situation like that happen when they're behind the wheel.
Yeah, so also I live in a very small rural town. Like it's like less than 5,000 people of the town that I was driving in. So it was like, oh wow, like this happened actually here. Um, yeah, so the process of me is like when I got out of the truck, I knew from basketball I needed to control my breath. I needed to control my heartbeat. So there was those things that I knew that I already had kind of some things that I knew was already on the table of like, hey, we need to control ourselves. We don't need to we don't need to lose control. But also I had my niece in the back seat. And so when I got home, then it was like, okay, I started reaching out to people that I knew that had PTSD. And one of my friends did 3 tours in Iraq. I called him and I was like, hey man, I was like, so how do you deal with almost getting killed by a bullet? And he's like, dude, I've never been shot at in my entire life. And so that's when it really like dawned on me, like, oh, I am in a room full of less people than I actually am aware of. Like I thought everybody in the military had that experience. And so that was the thing is like I started just reading. I started looking into different things, modalities that like I wasn't even really sure of. But what I did was I knew that there was a point where I had to be still and be calm. And so I did that. And so I started kind of journaling a little bit. And now I do it a lot more. But at that time, that was when it kind of started like, oh, I need to get these thoughts out on paper. I went and saw a therapist. I was actually seeing someone twice a week. So, I mean, I was doing the work, but there was just this point of like, there was this disconnection of like, how do I explain what I'm really going through? And with this being June and Man's Mental Health Month, like it really shows we don't really talk about things like that.
How did you deal with the emotions that you had? So you talked about the breath work and reaching out, and what were some of the more the challenges that surprised you about moving forward and growing from this incident?
Yeah. So one of the things that really, what the challenge was as you're still, allow your nervous system to go down, and I could not have done that by myself. Like so, I was extremely fortunate. A friend of mine's a master hypnotist who I didn't know at that time, and when I met him, and he was able to help me get those traumas from a level 10 and level 9. That's when everything was at neutral, and I was like, okay, now I can handle this stuff. Where before, if it was just me myself, there was no way. So the best way to explain it is if with trauma is if I had a bunch of file cabinets. If I had a file cabinet, I had a bunch of files, and I just opened the file cabinet drawer and I grabbed all the folders and I threw them on the floor, and then I just pick them back up and think that everything's going to be okay and everything's going to be organized. Like, and that's kind of what it is with these trauma. We're not educated enough to realize how that impacts people.
And you bring a good point that it can help us grow, or we can find ourselves retreating and just not dealing with or not sorting through the emotions, just the work that needs to be done. So how did you know that you had accumulated enough work to move ahead underneath your belt? How did you know that, okay, I can breathe, I can take another step forward. I'm not chained to this incident. How did you know that was happening, that you were improving?
Self-awareness. I mean, so I was really just, I was alone a lot by myself. I was reading a lot, especially after, dealing with the misdiagnosis. So the period between the shooting and finding out misdiagnosis, Dwayne was not in a good space. I was just thinking, hey, I'm going to sit here in my parents' house and I'm probably going to die in my bed. That's kind of how I was feeling at that point. But then when everything started kind of rolling in my favor, as far as like when I started feeling healthy, and then I was like, oh, like I can start kind of moving forward in life. But I knew that I had to heal. That was the most important part. I knew I needed to take the time to heal. I knew that, like, hey, this journaling stuff, this personal development, I haven't been doing this for a while, so I need to like really step it up. And so I was anywhere between 2 and 8 hours. I would just dedicate that part of my day to just be able to make those steps forward. And so as I was going through that and I was getting confidence, I was meeting the right type of people. People were crossing my path that only I could wish that crossed my path. And so that was part of it, is when I started realizing, oh, like I can actually do something with all of these talents that I felt like were being wasted.
And we've got a lot more to cover, including your book. First, we're going to take a commercial break. Stay right there.
So in the calm bag, it has GABA, theanine, and taurine. So theanine, which is B1, which is also in our B complex, but it also helps with the stress response levels. It also helps with the neurological transmitters in our brain. Combined with the GABA, and then you add taurine to it. Taurine is a non-essential amino acid in our body, but it's found in our heart, our brain, and our eyes. So in my personal opinion, it's very essential in our lives. But taurine has a calming effect as well. When I was battling all my AFib issues, I was taking high doses of taurine because that would help with my AFib. It would help with the palpitations I was having. And it also helped with the anxiety of having the palpitations because I knew what was going on. And so taurine helps a lot with that as well. So those three together create such a wonderful concoction that just really just calms people down.
Introducing Launchpad, the perfect partner to help you launch your dream project to the world. We know that time is of the essence, and we're here to help you make the most of it. With Launchpad, you'll get access to the most advanced digital tools and strategies to take your idea from a mere concept to a fully fledged success. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur or a seasoned pro, we have everything you need to make your mark in the world. Launchpad, your ultimate launch partner.
He is the author. He's also a speaker. We're speaking all things of forging resilience from fire. And before the break, we were talking about some of his life moments where he literally was dealing with a diagnosis that later came to not be what it was from blood cancer, and then just a harrowing moment in which he survived a crossfire between police and a runaway and a criminal that was running away from justice. And Dwayne, so before the break, we talked about how you were tapping into elements that were helping you move and improve from that. How do you define emotional resilience?
That's a really great question. Emotional resilience is where you're able to take I believe that you have to be able to say, hey, things are going to happen, and you have to be adaptable. But once you have that awareness of being adaptable, emotional intelligence is awareness. And so when you can control your emotions as much as possible, but you also have to be able to, in my opinion, you have to be able to know, hey, there's a place that I need to cry. There's a place that I need to do these, like I need to laugh. There's these different emotions that are attached, but I also need to know that those emotions, when I tap into them, that's going to make me more resilient to whatever I'm facing.
And so the journey healing, what were some surprising things along the way that you discovered about yourself?
Yeah, so I would say one of the main things was everything that I had went through in my past, I felt like I couldn't get through. I realized I gotten through them in the past. And so I built on that block. I like to take it as like a Lego and build upon things. And then like, hey, it's just one block. Well, one block turns into a foundation, and then you just keep moving forward. The other part is I just knew that like there was these different aspects where I'm like, why did all these things like go in my favor? And then that's when I realized like I'm divinely protected. And when you realize like our ability to be with the Creator in that aspect, that's where my faith came along, and you're able to build off of that. But you're also able to be like, okay, I learned all these things. These were lessons rather than just setbacks. And I think that's probably one of the most important things. And when I realized that these setbacks were actually lessons that I'm able to apply to later in life.
At some point, you decided to write a book. And I want to bring up our screen. Your book is called Become Bulletproof, the Bounce Back Blueprint. And talk a little bit about what was the turning point for you to put pen to pad to write this book, and what is the takeaway for the reader?
The takeaway for the reader is going to be, this is actually the book I wish I had whenever I was going through, when I was looking for. So that was the one thing I wanted to make sure that I created, was like, what would Dwayne wanted when he first got diagnosed? So this is part of the book. It talks about the different tools that I used during different times. And maybe I wasn't aware of the science, but I was aware of the application of them. So I would apply them, and through these different parts, I applied them, and then I was able to see the results. I think that's the most important part is everyone wants to know what's in it for them, what the results they're going to get. The results are if you follow this blueprint, you're going to become more resilient. And so, you know, in a comparison stake, we have different size mountains that we're going through, but it's still a mountain. And so if they apply the things that are in this book, they'll be able to go through their mountains. And I think that's the most important thing.
When did you decide to write the book?
Yeah, so it started, I was at the grocery store and ran into a friend, and a friend was telling me about all these different things that was going on in his life. And then I was like, I was giving him different tools, and then I was like, oh, I should write this book, and so I could give it to him. And so that's really what it was about. And then I started talking to other people, and I was like, they really need this book, and they really need these tools. And so all these tools were things that I applied. I just didn't know the science behind them when I was going through it. And then also, this book was going to come out end of June, middle of July. And because I had the 3rd anniversary of the shooting on May 16th, I was like, it'd be really cool if I could become an author on that day. And so instead of having this like tragic event be that anniversary, instead let's change that. Let's change that negative and turn it into a positive. I become an author, and I released my first book.
So now, was this last year, or was it just recently that this was last year when the book came out? Is that right?
No, the book just came out like on May 16th. So
okay, so it
Yeah.
so it recently came out. For some reason, I was under the impression like it came out last year, but thanks for clarity. So this was so the anniversary. So that means that the incident took place in 2022, and this was in a lot of ways this can be seen as a healing turning point, that this could be coming full circle for you.
Exactly. This also, the book cover, I was told not to do this book cover by so many people. They were like, why would you put the bullet hole in the basketball if the image is supposed to be you being the basketball? And I was like, well, it's supposed to bring intrigue, but what you don't realize is that bullet, that stray bullet that I got hit and I got put in the crossfire, it took a piece of my heart and my soul. And so that's the representation of the basketball. But that's truly what forged Show Up to Win.
And can you talk a little bit about some of the key points in your book? Like, what are some of the tools that really resonated with you that you want to specifically share with readers so that they can apply those tools to their life? Yeah, so for the people, it was like I wanted people who felt like they were battling silent battles. I wanted them to know like, hey, this is your book. The other part is like my friend Chuck DeBroder, who's a master hypnotist, he wrote the foreword in the book. So I wanted people to know, hey, I truly want people that have issues with hypnosis to actually know that like I truly believe in it. And so I wanted him to do that forward. The other part of this book is where I just simplify things. I think that's the other thing is sometimes we just overcomplex things. And so this book is going to be extremely simple steps, but simple steps are actually things that you can actually replicate. And so one of the things I have in there in my book, and I put it in more detail, but is the 4 steps that I do every day. And so those 4 steps are going to be gratitude, self-care, I'm going to focus on movement, and then I'm going to mostly focus on adaptability. And so when you do that and you go through your day, you just have a better day. But there's so many times that we're trucking along, and then we find an obstacle and we just stop. But that's really not where resilience is born at. It's seeing that obstacle and figuring a way to go around it. Or, I like to use the analogy of a pothole. If I see a pothole in the road as I'm driving, I try to swerve and maybe miss it all together. But if I'm not able to swerve the whole entire way, I'm at least not taking a center hit. And the center hits are what causes your alignment of your tire to go bad, or it causes damage to your car. And so to me, I feel like those 4 things are extremely important. So I have those in the book. The movement part, I take a military cadence of left foot, right foot, and I talk about that, how, if you're picking up a heavy box and it's super heavy, and if you're looking at the destination,
that box is going to be even more heavy. But if you just like talk and you think, well, let's just worry about moving it step by step, you usually are at your destination a lot quicker.
What was the one thing that surprised you in becoming an author that you discovered about yourself that you didn't know about before?
It's a great question. For me was that it reminded me that when I was a little boy, probably about 8 years old, when I first started learning how to read, I wanted to write a book. And it was just like, oh wow, how can I? But over time, it just became like, I'll never be an author. I'll never write a book. Like, yeah, it seems like it would be a cool thing, but I lost sight of that. And so this was actually something that when I was going through my healing journey, I was like, I would love to write a book. So that was the thing. But when the book came out, I was supported. A couple of my former teachers, English teachers, were extremely just like, I can't believe you wrote a book. It's a huge achievement just because there's so many people right now that are still writing their first book and they haven't released it.
And we have more to cover. First, we're going to take a commercial break. Stay put.
Welcome to Renew Laser and Skincare, where beauty meets technology. From laser hair removal and anti-aging treatments to facial sculpting, acne care, and injectables, our expert team helps you look and feel your best with customized, results-driven care. Located in Littleton, Colorado, we offer a comfortable, welcoming space and cutting-edge treatments tailored just for you. Visit renewlaserandskincare.com to book your transformation today. Renew Laser and Skincare, where confidence begins.
Hey everyone, Adriana here, and welcome back to Fit Bites. Today, let's talk about the benefits of getting natural sunlight for vitamin D and how to do it safely. Vitamin D is crucial for bone health, immune function, and mood regulation. One of the best ways to get it is through sunlight. Just 15 to 20 minutes of sun exposure a few times a week can help your body produce the vitamin D it needs. Enjoy activities like walking, gardening, or even a light jog early in the morning or late afternoon when the sun isn't too intense. While getting your dose of sunshine, it's important to protect your skin and your eyes. Wearing a hat and sunglasses can shield you from harmful UV rays. Don't forget to apply a broad spectrum sunscreen with at least SPF 30 on exposed skin. So remember, too much sun can lead to skin damage and it can increase the risk of skin cancer. Seek shade when the sun is at its peak, usually between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. whenever possible. This way, you're getting the benefits of vitamin D without the risks. Stay sun smart and enjoy the outdoors safely. A little bit of sunshine can go a long way in boosting your health and well-being. Stay tuned for more Fit Bites with Adriana.
Welcome back, everyone. Today we are talking about forging resilience from fire. Our guest today, author and speaker Dwayne Morton, and we were spending time talking about his book. Now, Dwayne, I wanted to dive a little bit into, you are a mindset coach. You have coached others in terms of mindset performance and all that implies. And what do you think the biggest misconception is about having the right mindset to really overcome any situation that is an obstacle or a barrier in your life?
Yeah, so the right mindset is going to be probably the key component to get you through it, because I feel so many people, they focus so much on the physical part, especially with sports, because that's more what I deal with is the athletic part. And I'm bringing that over to being a resilience coach and talking to people who are dealing with, regular life issues, because I think that's really important. But sports actually set me up to be able to be more self-disciplined where other people do not have that. And so that's one of the biggest things for me as a coach is like, I have to realize that like, I got to start with the self-discipline part. So that's the other, I feel like that's the building block of just, not just resilience, but mindset. And then once they realize that these things come easier over consistency and not just like do it one time a week and then be like, oh, why didn't this work? I mean, it's the same thing as if I go on a diet and I say, hey, I want to lose 10 pounds. And then on the second day, I'm like, I don't see a weight change. And then they go out and eat a chocolate cake. Like, it's very similar. But that's the way that we're brought up. We're so brought up in convenience that it's the same thing with mindset. They want to see those quick results and they want to see those type of things. And so my first dive is to tell them, hey, we need to get some consistency. Once we get some consistency, we can build upon it. And so when I build with mindset, I'm like, hey, let's focus on what we want to accomplish, but let's break that into sections and let's reverse engineer what we're looking for rather than just, hey, I want to do this and not have a plan. I feel like there's two things that people forget, and that is to get a mentor and you get a plan. And most of the time, people will plan first and begin, and then they realize, oh, I need a mentor. I prefer get a mentor first and then have them create the plan.
Now, in working with others, you also do your best to get the word out and get the message out. So I do want to hold space because another role that you play is that you have your own podcast. And I want to bring up our little information on that here. Talk about Show Up to Win podcast. What is it? When did you start it? And how do you, what's the vibe for your listeners when you're connecting with them? With the essence of the show?
The essence of the show is that people see me as like this person who went through resilience things, and so they see me as that poster child. And so I want to spotlight other people and be able to show that there's other people that maybe have gone through things and we just haven't heard about them. Maybe they don't have a book. For me, I was able to find some really great people and spotlight them at the first. The show is only a month old. I think I've recorded probably about 15 episodes, and there's like 10 that are released so far. But that's the thing is like, it's the consistency piece of getting people's stories out, but it's also a way of me giving back and paying forward because there's really great people who have great stories that we just haven't heard so far. But really, it was just like, how can I expand on helping and supporting people? And that's the reason for the podcast.
So it's a month old, and are there different platforms where you are specifically having the podcast located?
So it's going to be on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. I wanted it to be on those three platforms. I felt like those were the ones that most people were aware of, but also they're the ones that actually have video. I think video has so much more to give of value, but also it just allows them to have that touch, see their emotion. So that's the reason I chose video. I think that's very important.
And you're right. The exponential reach is out there, and of course we want our viewers to know show up to number 2 win, not necessarily TO, but show up number 2 win. And we're going to take a quick commercial break. We are coming right back. Stay right there. Welcome back, everyone. We have been spending some quality time with our guest, Dwayne Morton, author, speaker. He's also a mindset performance coach. And Dwayne, where can we find you in the social media space, in the virtual space?
Yeah, so the first place is going to be Facebook. It's just going to be Dwayne Morton all together. And then also LinkedIn is going to be DW Morton 24, and it's up there. And then also my LinkedIn is going to be DW. Sorry, said that wrong.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Where else can we find you? Also, you have two websites. So obviously, we have the Show Up to Win. We want to pull that up here for our viewers. Talk a little bit about what we can expect on your website. What are some things that are there as resources?
Yeah, so Show Up to Win is going to be where I'm going to launch the community part, because I think it's very important. For me as being a resilience coach is to meet with the people and to coach them through resilience. And so I'm doing it through a community. I'm building the community, and then the community is going to be able to help support each other, but they're able to keep each other consistent. And so that was the reason for Show Up to Win. And then I also have another website that's going to be more for my speaking, and that's DwayneMorton.com.
And that one for both, you have ongoing events that you put up there in real time, and I'm assuming that you've got some incredible things coming up for the remainder of this calendar year. What do you have going on?
Yeah, so I have a couple of things. The one thing that I want to spotlight the most is I just was brought a project that I feel is going to be the project of a lot of projects. So think of, Adriana, think of like a health and wellness event that we're having, like we got to go to like a convention center, or we have to like plan ahead and go travel to. What if we could do that in the virtual space, and it would actually be where we don't have to travel, but we could actually spend more time in the exhibits. And so there's an opportunity there that I have from an investment side. And so if they want to email me, that would be a great way to get a hold of me, and so I could get in touch with these guys. But I feel like this project is going to be something really big in the virtual space. I think that it also is going to show a different side of an experience for that. And then also, there's some other surprises that I'm going to be attached to it. That's the reason that this project. But also, you're going to see me speaking on stages more and more later on this year.
What would you tell someone who is stuck in survival mode that they just can't move forward? What is the one piece of advice or one little tip that you would want for them to understand?
For anyone in survival mode, the thing is you got to understand that like you have to want to move on. If you do not want to move on, and you say that like I want to move on, but you're not making any type of movement to move on, then that means that you're just being stuck, and you're happy being stuck. And so that's the thing is I would just try to move. In my diagnosis period, honestly, my goal was to do one thing, just one thing. If it was to get up and go to the fridge and get a glass of OJ, that was a wrap. I was happy. I celebrated it. And so when you start building on those things consistently, that's how you get out of your survivor mode, and you really want it. And I know people want it, and they just they get into that point where they're just like, I don't know what step. The first step is to begin, not just set, begin.
And these are powerful words and things for all of us to remember. Dwayne Morton, thank you so much for spending time with us today. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you.
Thanks for having me on, and thanks again for the listeners for giving me the chance to share my stories.
And for our viewers, we just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors. We appreciate their support. Biomed, Mobile IV, Dapper, No Code, Launchpad, Renew Skin, Laser and Skincare, and Synergize Fitness. Of course, you can find us on the web. Our website is thehealthrevolutiontv.com. There you can subscribe to our newsletter. You can also email us with any show episode ideas you would love for us to cover. On the corner of your screen, you will find our QR code, so feel free to grab that. And then, as always, every Tuesday and Thursday, you can count on us to be there for you on the Arion TV channel on E360 TV, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern on all the major distribution handles. That is all the time that we have for today. Until next time, take care of yourselves. We will see you soon.